Okay, and this is my audience. Are you guys all in there? Grade school, my mom would send my brother and I to Nebraska to stay with our aunt and cousins. Summers out there were just awesome because my aunt lived in a huge house on a private lake with a bunch of fun stuff to do. Let's just say we never got bored. But there was one particular reason that made those summers more meaningful to me. My oldest cousin TJ had a friend that lived a half a mile up the road, and his name was Perry Jr. Storm. Being 14 at the time and boy crazy, I definitely fell head over heels. Once I first met Perry, I started noticing he was coming over to my aunt's house a lot more. We began communicating through MySpace, which led to exchanging phone numbers and then texting back and forth. The only time I could see or even hang out with Perry was when he would come over to hang out with my cousin. My aunt was really strict when it came to Perry and I in the same room. By the end of that summer, we had become really close, which made leaving to go back home so much harder. Once the school year started, we didn't end up talking as much. I was occupied with being a freshman in high school and joining the softball team. Also, living 10 hours away from each other, it was bound to happen. Next summer rolled around, and the only thing I could think of on our way to Nebraska was Perry. I figured there was no way he wouldn't have a girlfriend, and yep, I was right. Although figuring he had a girlfriend, I still took it as a surprise. My older cousin told me that Perry had been dating this girl for several months now, and they seemed to really like each other. It wasn't exactly an easy thing for me to hear, but I blocked it out and focused on having a good time with my cousins. I still saw Perry every now and then at the house, but it seemed different this time. About the middle of summer, Perry broke up with his girlfriend, which was something I didn't expect to happen. I never knew if the reason he broke up with his girlfriend was for me, but we then became even more close than ever before. Right before leaving to go home at the end of summer, Perry asked me to be his girlfriend, and of course I said yes. Despite the long-distance issues ahead of us, I had high hopes. During the next school year was filled with long late-night phone calls that would last hours with him. After several months, we both agreed it just wasn't going to work out like this. I mean, we were both very young and had many opportunities ahead of us. Of course, I felt heartbroken and devastated, but like with everything else, time heals everything. After the next year, I got into a serious relationship that lasted through the rest of my high school days to my college ones. This completely drove my feelings away from Perry, but he always crossed my mind every now and then. I would sometimes, but very rarely, keep in touch with him on Facebook. By staying connected on Facebook, he had several different girlfriends over the time period and seemed to be really happy. It wasn't until Thanksgiving 2013 I saw him again. The only reason that I was planning a trip to Nebraska was so I could see my younger cousin Nicole before she left for boot camp for the Marines. At the last minute, she decided to stay in Hawaii with her boyfriend before leaving. This made me extremely upset because she was the only reason I made this trip and the plane tickets were not refundable. So the night we land in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do for an entire week? And then Perry came to mind. Since I didn't have his phone number anymore, I messaged him on Facebook letting him know that I was in town and see if he wanted to hang out and catch up. Not even an hour later, he responded. He gave me his phone number and told me to text him. The next night, we made plans and he picked me up from my aunt's house around 8. I can't even begin to express all the feelings I was having waiting for him to arrive. Never been so nervous in my life. I can't tell you why I was so nervous. Maybe it was because I had a past with him. Furthermore, the night ended up being great. And it's like we just picked up where we left off. I spent every single day that week with him. Of course, there was the time to leave to go home. But this time I was leaving to go home as his girlfriend once again. This time I fell even harder than I have ever fallen for him before. This was it. This is who I wanted to be with, and I was going to do anything to make this work. Things were definitely moving fast considering we were already planning me moving there in May after my spring semester. Within those months of my spring semester, I had never been on so many different flights before in my life to go see him. I never went a full month without seeing him either. Finally, May was here, and I packed up my whole life in Texas and moved to Nebraska. It has been the biggest decision in my life so far, and I couldn't be happier. Then now, here we are, months later, with no regrets and only the future ahead of us. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I am most definitely happy how things turned out for me.